Hi everyone, delonewolf here and welcome back for some more EVE Online. In today's video I wanted to discuss the Raitaru engineering complex a little bit. As most of you probably know, I've set up two Raitarus in the Dital or Dital system. Not exactly sure how to pronounce that one, but one is for research, the other is for manufacturing. And I think I always tend to assume that people either watch the videos or read dev blogs, read patch notes and things like that, but I think most people, and especially newer players, may have quite a few questions about the engineering complexes and why you would set those up and why you would use them. So in this video I want to explore them a little bit, and I especially want to try to find some advantages of A, using engineering complexes, and B, setting up engineering complexes, specifically the Raitarus at the moment, because they really do seem to be the winners of Ascension so far, for me at least. So number one, a big advantage is going to be the straight up ISK costs. For any job that you set up. As an example, I'm currently in SS Kama, which is one jump out, and I'm in an NPC station from the Imperial Armaments. Now, if I set up a job here, I have a blueprint copy for a Drake, for instance, you can see here that my total job cost goes up to 780,000 ISK from a system cost index of 1.66%, which is not even that high, and then a standard facility tax of 10%. And the biggest gain is probably going to be from the facility tax, because players that own the engineering complexes can actually lower that tax all the way to 0 if they want to, thus providing a serious benefit to people that use engineering complexes just from the job cost perspective. We'll quickly fly over to my engineering complex to show you guys the comparison, but why do I think that this will turn out to be a real benefit for players? It is, of course, because these are actually pretty cheap, these Raitarus, to set up. And as a result, I think that eventually, even for engineering complexes that try to ask for more tax from players, you'll just end up with some competition right next door that are going to cut down on their taxes to attract more customers and get that little bit of money. And I think that they're so cheap and that they will become so ubiquitous that most players will end up with taxes very close to 0%, because, well, it's free and passive ISK for the owner, and the incentive to keep lowering your taxes just to get a few more customers is really, really strong. So let's head out over there and let's take a look at the comparison here in the Dital system. Now, Dital is probably a little bit unique as well, because it doesn't have an NPC station, which means that historically very low amounts of production and research have been happening here, which is a big advantage on the index of this system. So in general, you're already going to pay less. But now if I take the blueprint, set this job up, here you can see the cost is only 370,000 ISK, less than half the ISK cost from an NPC station right next door. So you can see that the system cost index is only 1.01%, lower than in SS Kama. Engineering complex bonus gets me minus 3% as well, and I set my own tax at 0.1%, which is not 0. The reason I do this is because I want to keep a close eye on the customers. I want to have a little bit of idea of who is using the engineering complex and what sort of jobs are they putting up. I'll try to keep that as secret as possible, of course, but just to give you an idea, I usually get ticks of like 10 ISK or 100 ISK for probably the bigger jobs or something like that. So it's really not going to be the cost right there. And this should be a pretty good saving for anyone that decides to move either from their own boss or from an NPC station to a public Raitaru. Just the straight up ISK cost should be substantially lower. Now, another advantage of these engineering complex when it comes to cost, it's not so much for the people that are going to use them, but for the people that have been deploying them. And the biggest difference is in is compared to the other engineering complexes at the moment because of the rig costs. So if I take a look at my current fitting, you can see that I don't have any rigs in this just yet. So all of the jobs are currently unbonused, but apparently at the moment, rigs are extremely expensive, which is why I don't have any of them just yet. And I'm still thinking about which jobs do I want to give benefits to from rigs. So basically, which rigs do I want to invest in? But it turns out that the cost of large rigs and Excel rigs is so much more than the M rigs that it is just a lot more cost efficient to just basically build 16 Raitarus, set those up, each of them with a unique job type that they give bonuses to, rather than setting up 3 or 4 large engineering complexes or a single Excel engineering complex. And as a result, you're just going to get all the more engineering complexes out there in New Eden, which will be Raitarus, which will be small ones, so they'll try to specialize as much as possible. But you already see in perimeter system, the system of perimeter right next to Cheetah, like more than a dozen Raitarus, each of them specialized, for instance, in small ships, in medium ships, in large ships, in munitions, in drones, and things like that. And so people are already actively rather choosing to set up a full set of Raitarus to provide the full benefits of all the possible jobs up to sub-caps, of course, not for capitals and super capitals, rather than investing and risking a large engineering complex and in Excel engineering complexes. Personally, considering the numbers that I've read on the Reddit thread about this, I think that CCP is going to step in at some point. They are going to reduce, I think, the building cost of the large and the Excel rigs to make it just make sense to go for a large or an Excel Citadel at some point. But for now, it's just the best choice to go for Raitarus apparently in EVE Online because of the prohibitive rig costs at the moment. So I'm pretty happy with this. This should mean more customers for public Raitarus at the moment. People are not going to wait and see if someone is going to deploy an L. Nope, they're probably going to move straight to Raitarus for their own production, which leads me to a bit of a more speculative advantage. You can't be absolutely certain of this, but for owners of Raitarus, I think in general, a big advantage should be that this will consolidate the neutral and the individual, the small player industry to public Raitarus in the upcoming weeks and months. And the advantage of that is that this should drastically reduce fuel usage. This is my personal expectation. Again, we'll have to keep an eye on all of this in EVE Talk and things like that. But I think a lot of the very small corporation, the individual players that do a lot of industry or that want to try industry, will no longer set up their own boss in order to do their manufacturing, but they'll just look for the cheapest public Raitaru that allows them to do the manufacturing and do it from there. And in general, I suspect that this will cause a drop in the usage of fuel and thus also a drop in the cost of fuel, which at the moment for me, it's quite a lot. Running all of these facilities for the two Raitarus, so 3 12 block an hour facilities, so manufacturing and 2 research slots, and then also with the reprocessing and the clones that I have in the Astra house, I'm looking at around 144 million ISK a week just in fuel. But as I've said, I expect that this will actually decrease in price as people consolidate into public Raitarus and engineering complexes rather than sticking to their own bosses. And that leads me to the final advantage, which I think should not be underestimated. Another big reason why I do think that people will end up inside these engineering complexes is just the sheer ease of use of something like a Raitaru. Now, I've been doing a little bit of inventory management in the last few days, so I don't have anything available in the engineering complex itself. Don't ask me why. That's all part of a personal plan that I can't really divulge to you guys. But if you just take a look at the ease of use of this, you can build anything except for capital and super capital ships, from this one facility, from this one service slots. That means that all I need to do is bring the blueprints and bring the materials to the item hangar of the Raitaru, and I can start building as much as I want, or as much as I have slots available for. Compare that to what you have to do as an individual player in order to produce stuff in a POS. You need to then set up your POS, and I'm looking for the market, here it is. Then you need to start with your assembly arrays. So you've got advanced large, medium and small ship assembly arrays for your Tech 2 ships. You've got a munition assembly array, you've got a component assembly array, drone assembly array, equipment assembly array, and it keeps going. Large for Tech 1, medium for Tech 1, a rapid equipment, small ship assembly array. So all of these were individual services that you basically had to set up in your POS. A lot of the times, considering the restrictions on fitting, especially if you wanted to only use a small or a medium POS, you had to put stuff offline in order to be able to produce from one. Then if you wanted to switch to another production, you had to switch all of that around. Compare that to the Raitaru. The ease of use, again, I think is just a major advantage of running these engineering complexes. And this is why I've set up these two engineering complexes. I'm not really doing this for profit. I'm not really doing this for myself. The idea that I have behind the setup that I've going here, so you've got an Strauss, you've got one engineering complex for manufacturing, and you've got one for research up there, is to provide a place for mostly newer players, but also players that, like me, prefer to stay a little bit more independent and still want to explore EVE Online, including mining, research, industry, and things like that. And why did I choose this specific system? That is because right next door to Dital you've got KBP7, which is in Nullsec in Providence, which is a not red don't shoot Providence region, which basically gives you a chance, even as an independent player, to experience nullsec if you want to. Just a couple of jumps out, we also have lowsec. You can do some decent exploration around here, and you're only 8 jumps out of Amar. If I go for Amar, set destination, it's only 9 jumps away from Amar. So basically a lot of the different game styles that you can explore in EVE Online are easily explorable from the Dital system, and with this you actually have a cheap and easy way to also explore research and industry from this facility. This is why I've set all of this up, and hopefully it can help some new players find their way in the game, especially players like me that feel a bit hesitant for just joining a corporation or joining a major alliance, but actually value their independence as well. I think that a setup like this can help them enjoy and stay in EVE Online as well. And that's what I wanted to share with you guys in this video. Talk a little bit about the Raitaru, the advantages of these new engineering complexes, and why I set up two myself in this current system. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and as always, I'll see you next time.